The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Can I say what a pleasure and an honor it is to be with you here this morning and this week. It's a big week. We've got a lot of wonderful stuff going on this week. And I'm feeling grateful. I know on Monday we introduced our topic of the week, which is getting our grateful on. And I know that there are a lot of you out there right now within the sound of my voice who have a lot going on, and it isn't all hearts and flowers and roses, right? That is just a given. But there is something to be grateful for, and I'm going to ask you to try to muster up what that is this week, this day, this year, right? Because it all gets a little bit easier if we can get our grateful on. So thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning, and we've got a lot of stuff that's happening this week. In just a few minutes, we are going to be showing you, I know I always love to be able to show you a live Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, but unfortunately today we're going to be showing you some recorded segments from Dr. Granpeesheh. But I'll tell you what, the answers still are what's essential and lifeblood to so many of you. So you're still going to love that. Traven's going to show you a bunch of the different ways that you can still interact with us live, because we are still here live even while we're showing you a recorded segment. So he's going to show you different ways to connect, and while he does that, I just want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com, and when you go there, there's many things to do, not the least of which right now is if you click on the toy guide button that's at the very top of the page, you can be taking a look at the 2019 Autism Live toy and gift guide. These are the toys that we're recommending this year that just really caught our eye, that we had parents test, we had kiddos on the spectrum, teens on the spectrum, adults on the spectrum who played with the toys and checked out the gifts. They all gave us their opinion, plus we watched their behavior with these items, and that was super fun. And then some things that we saw that we just thought were standouts, and it tells you a little bit about why we think that they're a standout. Now, we've been doing this for a couple of years, and you guys asked us, you said, you know, the guide is great, but Shannon, I don't have time. Is there a way that I can just click on it and purchase it? And so what we did was we made the guide interactive for you. If you take your cursor and hover it over the name of the toy and click on it, there's a hyperlink that will take you directly to the place where you can purchase the toy. Please realize that that is separate from us. We make no money from that. It is not an affiliate program. We just made that for you guys so that you could have that and have it easy so that you could find the toys that we're recommending. We are spending the whole next month on the show reviewing the toys, so I hope you'll stay tuned this week because we have a lot of toy reviews coming up, and man, they fill my heart with light. We are getting ready here at this location to have our Sensitive Santa, that's an event that we have every year. It's coming up on the 5th, 6th, and 7th of December. That is the first time that I am announcing that here on this program, and in just a couple of days, we are going to open up the registration because it is limited how many people can come to this event, but we've made it 3 days instead of 1 because, again, you guys asked for us to do that. If you are in the Southern California region, so that is a Thursday night that it's from 5 to 8. There is a Friday night that it's from 4 to 7. And then on Saturday, we're doing it from 10 to 3. So there are lots of opportunities. We do that in conjunction with CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. They donate therapists who are there on hand. And the other partner that we have is We Rock the Spectrum. These are incredible gyms that are just for kids. They are, I don't even have the words, they're so amazing. So we do it at their flagship gym in Tarzana, California. Kiddos sign up for an hour, and it's the whole family. So you have one child on the spectrum and 5 who are not on the spectrum, you bring all of those kids. You sign up for an hour, you come to the gym, and you get to play for an hour. And everybody gets to get their yayas out and has a good time. There are therapists to help the kiddos to play appropriately and to have a good time and access all of the fun that comes with all the wonderful equipment at the We Rock the Spectrum kids gyms. But at some point during the hour, each kiddo, each family is invited to come back to the back to a very special room, and they have a private audience with Santa. They get to take as many pictures as they want. There is no charge for any of this. We literally take the time to make sure that every single family gets the photo with Santa that they've craved their whole lives. You guys know, I know what it's like to go to the mall or someplace else and wait in the line with all the piped in music and, you know, sometimes the fake snow and all of that. And then finally you get to where the Santa is and the elf grabs your kid, puts it on Santa's lap, and they go picture and out. And it doesn't matter that your child is screaming or not looking at the camera or not even capable of getting close to Santa Claus. It's like boom, boom. And you had to pay $35 to get the picture, and they won't let you take a picture with your phone. We are the antithesis to that. So there's no waiting in line. You're playing on equipment, and then your name gets called by an elf. You come, you get to sit next to Santa. Santa sometimes goes into the parking lot to be with kiddos if it's not working by the tree, wherever it needs to happen. And then the pièce de résistance, the child is given a wrapped toy. And these are some of the toys that are featured in our catalog, in our guide, but also other toys too. They're really wonderful toys that have been donated by fabulous toy makers around the world that we're so grateful for. So that is all happening on the 5th, 6th, and 7th of December. Stay tuned if you want to know how you can register to be one of those families to be at that event. It is, for my family, it is the entire holiday season, that event. We absolutely love it, and we're excited. We're pacing ourselves for 3 days because one day usually puts us out, but we're excited about it, and we hope that you guys are too. Okay, so check out the toy guide. I started with that, but for this hour and every hour that we do here at Autism Live, we really want it to be interactive. And Traven showed you a bunch of the different ways that you can connect with us. And I just want to say to you, we love it when you guys write into the show, whether you're writing on the live feature, which you can get to from the website. At the very bottom, there is a button that says chat. Click that, it opens up a box, and you can type and hit enter. And you and I can have a conversation, but it also makes it possible for you to have a conversation with our experts, right? But we also check in with you guys on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter. All of those places you can be writing in comments. It's just that when you write in on those spaces, people can at least see whatever name you've registered under. When you write in on our website, nobody knows, including me. I don't know who you are or where you are. If you feel that you've got a little bit more that you need to write, then we'll fit in, because there is a character limit. It's a lot, but it's a limit. If you feel that you need to write in more, you want to give me more of the backstory, you can write to me directly so that I will have your question in its entirety and you won't have to break it up into different segments. And my email is s.penrod@autism-live.com. And Traven is so great that he's got it up on the screen for you. For those of you who listen on iTunes and do audio only, that's s.penrod, which is P as in Peter, E as in egg, N as in Nancy, R as in robot, O as in Oscar, D as in dog, @autism, which I know you all know how to spell. And then there is a hyphen, that is the dash, the line in the middle, and then live, L-I-V as in Victor, E.com. Please feel free to write to me whenever you need something, and we do our level best to answer as many questions as we can on the program and as much as we can on the side. So feel free to be writing in whenever is convenient for you. It isn't just the hours that we are in fact live here on the show, but we enjoy, there is something about talking to you guys when it's live. I just don't know if you know how much that means to us here and how jazzed we get about it when we hear from you. It really is the reason why we do this show, and it's the thing that keeps us motivated to keep coming to you guys. I know that a lot of times you guys will write me. There are a couple of things that I'll say over and over on the show, and then I try to give it a rest so that it's not obnoxious, but then you guys will write and go, Shannon, you haven't said this in a while. So for those of you who have written and asked, one of the things I love to say to you is we get through this together. Take my hand, si se puede, we can do this together, right? And that, I think, is the only way. I know that many of you are thinking, oh, I'll tough it out, I'll do this on my own. Si se puede, hold hands, we can do this together. Okay. I do want to say, too, for those of you who are just tuning into the show, maybe for the first time, this show is for the larger autism community. This is, of course, for individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and we work hard to give them as much of a voice as we possibly can. If you're a person on the spectrum and watching and you're saying, I'm not hearing my story, write to me. Let's get your story told, right? But we include everybody in that community who cares about you. The parents, the teachers, the ABA practitioners, the doctors, the extended family members, grandma and grandpa, because we are the larger autism community and we have a lot of things that we all feel differently about because this is not a one-size-fits-all spectrum, right? But there's one thing that we all agree about, and that's that we all care deeply about somebody who's on the autism spectrum, and we want to help them to get the resources that they need to live their life with the dignity that they deserve, right? So join me, si se puede. We continue to work on that. We will not look to arrive, we will just continue to journey. That is what we will do. So my friends, having said all of that, we do have a very special episode of Ask Dr. Doreen ready for you. And then make sure that you tune in tomorrow because we have got a great show tomorrow and we're going to dig into some fabulous, fabulous toys. But here, check out Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the...
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. So excited that we're getting to more people than ever this morning because we have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh with us. And she is a true expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism. I was going to say in our time, but really in all time, expert in the field of autism.
I think we're going a little overboard here.
I don't think so at all. And I'm the arbitrator of that because I said so. But Dr. Granpeesheh has been working in this field for 30 plus years, which you wouldn't know to look at her. But I think sometimes the kids are part of what helps to keep you young and keep all the people who work in the field of autism young.
For sure, and the parents, for sure. No
well, that didn't rub off on me as an autism parent.
I don't know if you heard this morning, I was reading
Yes.
an email from one of the parents, and you know, we get so many of these emails, and they're just so touching, and they're just such a breath of fresh air. Like, it's not even about, it's just about the effect these therapists have, you know, and I just love that. It's such an amazing thing when you read these emails. It's
Well,
so touching.
I was thinking about this morning. Now, this is the last show of the year that we have Dr. Granpeesheh. See, I'm already going to get weepy. And normally I give you a present in the last show, and it's not done yet. So you're not getting your present today. I'm just letting you know that.
Thank you.
You're going to get it later on in the
That's
week or the
great.
beginning of next week. But I was thinking all this last couple of weeks about what I really want to get you this holiday season. And what I really want to get you is time. I want to be able to give you time. If I could give you a day of my life, and you know
Oh my God, you're
how
so
much I
nice.
love my life and love my little
Thank
boy, but if I could give you a day of my life, I
Thank
know
you.
you would do amazing things with it, and I would.
That's such an amazing thing to say. Thank you so much.
Well,
That's
and I mean
incredible.
it from the bottom of my heart, but I was thinking, but you know, often, but not every day, but I'm going to make an effort to make sure that it's every day, you are in my prayers.
Thank you so much.
And I know that you are in so many other autism parents'
Thank you
prayers that
very
we
much.
thank you and we have so much gratitude for you for the things that you do and that you
Thank you
have
so
been
much.
doing for decades, helping all kinds of individuals on the
Thank you.
spectrum.
You're gonna make me all emotional
No, see,
now on air.
It's that thing. I'm already crying today. But we do appreciate you, and I want for people who don't know you to know that you have been working in this field for more than 30 years, ranging from very small babies up through senior citizens on the autism spectrum, helping them to find their way, to be able to do the things that are important to them, that
That's
you
right.
look at each individual and help each individual. And that in and of itself is miraculous. But you also are better than anybody else I know at being able, perspective taking is really one of your many, many talents, and teaching. You're an amazing teacher. You've been able
Thank
to
you.
take what you know and give it to others, which is one of the great gifts to us, that you have a legacy of people who now know how to give this to other people, but you take care of the families. You see the individual, you take care of them as a whole person, and you take care of the families, and you are a visionary who has seen what's coming down the path, and there is no better time that we need someone like you than right now.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. But you know, I have to say, I've had kind of a very, I feel like yesterday I was out at UCLA. I was trying to talk to UCLA psychology department to try to see if we can start a behavioral psych program there. Which we can't, unfortunately, right now. And it was kind of a very melancholy visit, because I was told that they're shutting down the psychology building for a few years for seismic renovations. But when I was there, and of course I can't go to UCLA without going to the 5th floor where I studied for 12 years. And I went up there and I was just thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, you know, when I started the studying of autism and when I started working in autism in 1978, I went up to the 5th floor where there were several rooms there, and are all of our offices, and Lovas's office and my office and so on, and then one of the offices right next to his was a room that in the 70s had a electric grid floor. And then later on, of course, they came and covered it with wood and carpet and stuff. But that room was one of the rooms where the original research was done to try to teach attachment behavior, because many, many, many years ago in the 60s, when they first started experimenting with behavioral technology techniques and autism, and people have to understand that autism looked incredibly different back in the 60s. It was a much, much more severe type of disorder than it is now. But one of the things that they used to do was, this was pre my time, was that parents would stand on one side of the room on a platform, and then the child was on this electric floor, and the electricity would turn on. It was a very mild electrical thing. We experimented with it later ourselves, but it would tickle your feet, kind of make you uncomfortable. You would run to the platform, and this taught you to go to the parent for relief, basically, and it taught attachment behavior. It sounds a lot more horrible when I say than what it actually was, because when you think of electricity, everybody thinks like, whoa, that's scary. But
Right.
really, when it's a very mild amount, it just feels like kind of a little tickle.
Okay.
But I was there and I thought to myself, oh my God, how far have we come? That's where I was trying to go with this, because later, when I started there in the late 70s, we of course had the whole room redone, covered, and then that room became our studio, which was very similar to this, but it wasn't a filming studio. It was like that room, the production room, and there was a massive, I assume now it was an AVID thing, and we had these film producers who were there helping produce the 1987 recovery video, and I worked a lot on that video with them, which shows a lot of children before and after intervention.
Yes.
And so I stood there at the door of that room, and I thought to myself, all the different things that we used that room for. Then later on, I used it for my doctoral dissertation studies, like when I had subjects coming in there, participants, and all these thoughts. And then I thought, okay, and then I left UCLA in 1990 and started CARD, and then all the things we've learned since
Yes.
then, and like where we started. Honestly, Shannon, it's like a completely different program than what it was in 1990, even because you know, every year that goes by you learn something new. And then I came home and I started telling my daughter Nikki, who you know is very involved with psychology now, and I started talking to her about it, and she always gives me these things to think about. And she's working on a lit review for one of our staff here, and I was like, what's the lit review about? And she was like, well, it's about the fact that functional behavior assessments should be different for kids with autism, because kids with autism don't react the same to social attention, right? So obviously we should be looking at their motivation for attention-seeking behavior as somewhat different.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's an amazing
Brilliant.
study, right? And I think it's actually Esther's study. I'm not sure whose study it is, but I thought to myself, and this was probably the last thing she said to me last night, and I thought, like, the number of people, and earlier in the day I had gone to visit her in our metabonomics lab, where they're actually, you know, doing things on children's feces and like trying to...
The poop study,
poop
as I
study,
fondly
yes.
refer to it.
And I thought to myself, like, it's unbelievable how far we've come and how many things we still have to learn.
Yes.
We still have to learn, because you cannot in any way assume that you know, what we're doing at CARD, and this mom's email today brought all this back for me today, because she said, she was just saying how great we are in Orange County where she is. And I was thinking, you know, honestly, the spirit and the energy and the wonderfulness of all of our CARD staff just flows through to some of our children and the families, and it's so beautiful. But I just wish that I had the energy that I had 30, 40 years ago, because I wish that I could just learn more and I could help more families, because there are still so many families where the best we can do is to help maintain and help reduce challenging behavior, but we can't. We still, to this day, are not recovering all of our kids, obviously, and so that means there's something we still don't know.
Yes.
There's so much we still don't know about autism. And my hope and wish is that, you know, and I'll be in this field for a long time to come, but I hope that by the time the next decade, I hope that we all can learn much more about how our kids process the world, what are the best things we can do for them before birth, at a very young age, during adulthood, you know, throughout their lifespan. What can we do to help them better? And that's truly my wish to God for this season.
Absolutely
Really.
wonderful and lovely to hear. As I was saying before, there's so many things that are wonderful about you, but truly at the heart of what's wonderful about you is that you have not had an ego about this.
Oh,
But honestly, that's a huge gift to our community, that you've not had an ego about it, because you have taken what you know and you have disseminated to others, and you have found, when you have seen and I've watched you do this, when you see somebody who has talent, you have said, run. You go find out what you know about that and come back and tell all of us, and given them a platform with which to do that.
absolutely.
But everybody, I mean, I get goosebumps when I think about this. Everybody wouldn't be like that. I have watched you when you have said, we know things, let's share it.
Oh, yeah.
And people have said to you, oh, you want to be cautious about that. And you have said, no. We are not, we know answers, we need to share them.
Oh my gosh.
And so when my child was treated, I remember when the day my kid was diagnosed, and we're coming up on the 11-year anniversary of it, and the doctor said to me, well, be grateful you live in this time, because we've learned more about autism in the last 5 years than we did the 50 years before total.
True.
And I thought, okay. And then in the next 5 years,
So much more.
so much happened, and now I've been here for more than 5 years, and I've watched. I remember 5 years ago when you and Dr. Dixon were talking about phenotyping autism, and I thought, oh, if that could happen in my lifetime, and you've done it.
Well, we're getting there, and it is
With at
showing
least
already.
7 areas you've
Yeah.
done it, and that you know things that we didn't know 2 years ago
Right.
about how to do it better, and that, you know, when I think about I didn't meet you until Jem was almost done. You had not met my child,
Yep.
but I had every great thing that can be imagined, and I got my child back because you taught other people how to do that. And that's amazing.
And there are so many incredibly caring people at CARD, which I think is the biggest part of our success, is just that, that spirit of wanting to help and wanting to learn and wanting to share whatever we learn with our families is all throughout CARD. And it just is fascinating because, people say you were growing so fast. As you know, we have over 100 sites now, and next year we're hoping to double that. But you worry when, my focus in the last year or so or two has been, hey, we're growing fast, let's make sure we don't lose quality. And so, but, Shannon, I'll be very honest with you, there are so many people here who worry about that. Like the seniors, all the senior staff are just like, okay, no, we got to increase training. We got to watch over quality. We got to do clinical QA, all this sort of stuff. But also, it's just the genuine desire of the majority of our clinical staff to actually make sure they're at the forefront of therapy themselves. We don't even have to watch them because there's so many of them that want to actually make a difference. The young girl, Gianna, that I was reading about today, I mean, she's just, that's how spectacular is that, to not only help the child, but to spend that much time helping the parent understand what's going on. I think that's just fabulous.
Yeah, and I'm going to say one more thing in this Love Fest, and then we're going to get into your questions.
Yes, sorry.
But no, I think it's important. But I heard a young therapist at a meeting last week talk about her experience and her time here. And one of the things that she said is, as a young woman, it has meant so much to me to work at a company that was started by a woman who conducts herself with strength and leadership and hope and changes the direction of the world. And I am walking behind her proudly.
That's so amazing.
You.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
And so it all goes back to
awesome.
the head, right? And you lead well. So
thank you very
love
much.
you.
Thank you, and I love you.
Well, there we go. I'll mop down here. But here, I want to get into some questions that you guys, and you can be writing in questions on Facebook. First question, any tips or insight about teaching humor to an 8-year-old with high-functioning autism? He seems to have the most inappropriate sense of humor. I just want to say that 7 and 8 is my favorite age range.
Right.
Because that is the age that Alice in Alice in Wonderland is. She was 7.
Oh, okay.
And I love, if you want to send me into a classroom, I love all kids, but send me into a 7 and 8-year-old because they all have ridiculous sense of humor.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yes.
I love the inappropriateness. They don't know about being politically correct.
That's true.
So so I just want to put that in there, that all 7 and 8-year-olds, it's the fart joke humor.
Oh, sure.
I love that. I absolutely
I think a
adore
lot
it.
of us get stuck at that age. I
Yes,
know I do.
and many men get stuck at that age, which is why we have the movies
That's
that we
true.
have.
That's so true.
And I only enjoy watching those kinds of movies if there is a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, or an adult male who has not left that age range.
Exactly.
Because that's the only way I can really appreciate
right.
it.
Otherwise, they think we're crazy laughing
Right,
at
because
it.
you're like, okay, really, poo-poo humor is that funny? But it is when you're with somebody who appreciates it.
And it's good that you say that, because I often feel that the majority of our kids, especially when you look at a high-functioning child, they are typically in humor or in social settings, and so they're just like a couple of years behind. And so, like, if this is an 80-year-old, they're probably functioning in most areas similar to a typically developing, let's say, 5 or 6-year-old.
Okay.
And that's a very important fact, because 5 and 6 is where perspective taking and theory of mind actually begins to develop very seriously. So at around the age 5 is where we really start to comprehend other people's perspectives. The fact that other people have separate minds starts to really, in typical children, develop heavily at that point. It develops from birth. Joint attention starts very early, but by 5, I always say in my lectures that the first sign that we know other people's minds are separate from ours is around age 4, where we start to lie. Lying is the very first healthy sign of knowing that they don't know what's in my mind, so I can lie.
That's interesting because we have a question about lying later on too.
Yeah, so lying is one of the very important skills, and it is actually a very adaptive skill, right? Sometimes you just have to lie, and people don't realize that lying, complimenting people socially is half the time 50% lie.
Yeah.
There's very few people who empathetically will just want to say, oh my God, you look so amazing. Yeah. I wish I looked like you. Half of that is a lie. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So like most
yes.
of the time, exaggeration is a lie. All of those things. And jokes are a lie. Humor is a lie, because the way that humor works is that you say something that makes the individual listening go down a certain path, and then you twist the ending.
Yes.
And that's what makes them laugh. And in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to hold on to facts that the other individual doesn't know yet, because it's a surprise. Tricks, card tricks, all of these depend on that factor of being able to hold information in your head that the other person doesn't expect. And it's the unexpectedness that produces that reaction. So first of all, let's understand that this is not a huge delay that we're talking about here.
Right.
And it is not unusual that he would have an inappropriate sense of humor. It's pretty typical.
Right.
So yes, I have the exact direction for you. As you can, fortunately years ago, probably about 10 years ago, maybe more. Yeah, probably more than that. I keep forgetting how long we've been doing this, but quite a while ago, we started to see this problem with many of our younger kids, and we realized we actually have to teach them jokes. We have to teach them not just jokes, but this whole process of using the information in their head in a way that they never would normally, because, it's funny, in Recovered, you see Nick, one of our kids, actually saying a thing where he says, this was a joke that I made up, and I used to have a very hard time telling jokes because I'd always give away the punchline, right? And it's the reason I put that in the film, I kept that in the new version of the film, was that it's such an important statement that he makes, because like a lot of our kids don't realize that other people can't see inside their head.
Right.
And because of that, they don't know how to tell jokes, they don't know how to trick, they don't know how to tell lies, all that sort of stuff. So fortunately, Nick taught us, and some other kids taught us back in the day, and what we did is we broke this down to this most incredible details and produced a series of lessons in the right hierarchy and in the right order for all of our families. So if you should go on Skills, which the website is skillsforautism.com. It's hard to see it on here, but skillsforautism.com. And if you actually do put in your child's, specifically go to the cognition curriculum. If you don't want to do the whole thing, there's 8 areas. Go to the area that's called cognition. Go to that area, answer all those questions, and you will see a series of lessons that will lead you to this level, which is an advanced level of deception. That whole area is really referred to as deception, and it starts with, and there's humor, and there's telling jokes, and there's all these different things in that section. So I highly recommend you go in there, and it will get you to the point of teaching your child how to tell jokes. But you have to start with a more basic black and white kind of teaching the child to, and this is normal development too, with when kids start telling jokes, the basic early 3 or 4 year jokes are very black and white, and it's only 5, 6 years old when we actually make those jokes much more abstract. So start with the whole, if you do the order correctly that we have in Skills, you'll be able to see how this develops.
Absolutely love it. My son went through it, and my son is hilarious. I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's been interesting watching him grow his sense of humor. And sometimes it's still inappropriate. But I disclosed, I didn't realize it was a big secret. It is on our website that I used to be a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
But you didn't know until recently.
I didn't, and I love it.
But I talk to Gemma all the time about how true, good comedy like there's a line.
Yes.
And there's a line where it's too far.
Right.
And good comics constantly look for the line.
That's
Because
right.
if you get right to the line,
That's right.
and so we talk about that, and I will point out to him in real life, on television, oh, see, that was over the line.
Yeah.
Did you hear the audience react? That was over the line. And then we look and see what the person does to rectify it. Like sometimes the comic will tell a joke and the audience goes, oh, and I go over the line. And then you hear the comic go, oh, too soon? And they make a joke of the fact that they went over the line.
Right.
So we talk about that all the time. And I will say to him when he tells a joke, oh, good, that was right on the line. Or, oh, I was over the line, dude.
That's
You're
so
over
funny.
the line.
Yes.
And early on, where we, because you take your lessons and skills and then you try to take them out into life and work on them. So the best show in the world for that is America's Funniest Home Video.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
In fact, we had Vin DeBona on the show to talk about that, about the fact that so many of our kids like to watch it, and sometimes they're inappropriate things that people laugh at, and then you talk about that.
Absolutely.
We loved Kelby Wood, who used to work here, and Kelby was somebody who always laughs at the inappropriate things still.
Oh, really?
Always.
That's so funny.
Right? So, and he's an adult male, very successful, and, he's okay. But he will tell you that he laughs at the inappropriate thing, and that he has to, we were at shoots sometimes, and somebody would say something, and he would,
oh, really?
Laugh at the inappropriate thing.
That's so
But
funny.
that show is amazing. And it makes me think of, since we brought up Vin DeBona, that of course we lost Alan Thicke last night.
That's right.
And we're going to talk about that in the next hour during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, because Alan Thicke was a great supporter of Act Today.
He was, absolutely. In fact, he was at our fundraiser a few years ago.
Yes. And so we're going to talk specifically about Alan, but since Vin came up,
absolutely.
we do want to mention that. All right, so humor, what a great thing! What a great thing that you're asking questions about.
Definitely, and it's wonderful that that's where your child is. And I want to say one last thing, which is that my son has become a very humorous person, as you know. He's a great comedian.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
And I think what changed him and led him to that humor was early in his life, and he's always been a writer. Like from the time he was very, very little, he would write books, but. I think what started him on the humor track was one of my friends bought him a series of the Calvin and Hobbes books.
Oh, yeah.
And that changed him. Like he somehow, it clicked with him, and because it's very young humor and it's very okay humor. That might be a place where you want to start. You have to kind of find the thing that triggers your child's their own humor, and gets them laughing, because then once you have that, then you can help them analyze what it is and how they can produce that themselves.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Wonderful thing to be working on.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more of your questions, and hopefully I'm having issues with Facebook in here, but we're going to try to get some of the questions that you guys are writing in on Facebook. Stick with us.
So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat, and then I'm going to tuck my toes, and then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay, and my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Then it's a U.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet, but also sometimes what feels really good is going down on your forearms, like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor, you still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes, but rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay. All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay. So, yep. You're gonna do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Or are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. We are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and this is very exciting for us. And we're thrilled so many of you are writing in and saying you're glad that we're on Facebook. We are too. But I want to turn to a question that we had come in on our live YouTube site. Can autism be related to roseola? This parent has heard of a history of many parents saying that their child had roseola before the age of 1, and then ended up having being on the autism spectrum.
So, if I'm correct, roseola is herpes virus 6 or 7. And so it's a herpes-related infection, and it's not necessarily, no one has really connected herpes to autism. Now, when we do talk about some kids who have eczema. Eczema is just sort of a generic term for rashes. It doesn't necessarily mean what the cause is, right? So there's a lot of different things that could potentially cause a rash. But with children particularly, I think, who have had problems with yeast, which also causes rash, then there is often a connection. We see a lot of kids who are having difficulty with yeast infections and candidiasis, and they do end up having autism, or we don't know which precedes the other, they're just correlated. But I have not had any correlation even with roseola. I have not seen that.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And thank you for writing in that question on YouTube. I want to go back to questions from our home site, which is autism-live.com. And remind, if you're just joining us, we're here right now. We're going to be live. We're about a half an hour into our 2-hour-long show. We're going to be live the whole time. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, who is an expert in the field of autism. We do like to remind everybody at the start of the show that you can write in your questions for free on any of the sites that we're on. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook right now. But there is no expert in this format that could give individual specific advice.
Right.
So we like to keep the answers general in nature, but Dr. Granpeesheh is such a wonderful expert who has worked with so many different types of people on the spectrum over the years. She's a great person to ask questions for, and we appreciate her being here. I want to go on to this next question. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Do you think it's a good idea to show a high-functioning teen their skills graph? The green red bar that shows skills to learn versus attain skills. Will that hurt the ego or help with focus on what to work on and be able to see progress? About to have the talk with my teen about autism, and working on skills is coming up next. Thank you and warmest wishes to you. P.S. Shocking how much red there was on the graph. Skills gave the info necessary to help us move forward and provide the path. And thank you. Now I just have to get moving. It's always that, right?
Yes, it is.
It's just keep swimming,
Yes.
as Dory would tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it is, please don't let it shock you or scare you. If you take that assessment, you'll have a few red things as well. If I take it, I'll have.
Thank you for saying that.
The truth is that we're very obsessive when it comes to skills and assessing our kids. And the reason for that is that not that every child has to achieve 100% of their skill, really learn everything and make the whole graph green. That's not the purpose. Because what happens, first of all, none of our kids get to that point. Let's just be very clear about it. But the reason that we're obsessive about this is that we want to make sure that we don't miss something that's a critical skill. There's the whole area, one of the subtypes of ABA is pivotal response training. And in that, what's important is to make sure that you teach the pivotal skills, the skills upon which other things depend. And that is often, I find, something very important in our field, because people will try to just hammer something down. Like we had earlier, we had the question about humor. And there is no way a child is going to successfully be able to understand humor or tell jokes if, for instance, they don't understand the basic first level theory of mind, which is just telling a lie, let's say. So there are certain things that just depend on other things, and it's really, we didn't want to miss any of those critical skills for a child, so we listed everything. But please don't assume that your child has to actually get 100% of what's in there. Showing the teen, high-functioning teen, what areas need to change, you can do, but what I would suggest is that you try to perhaps do one area at a time, and also perhaps produce a profile first for yourself. Maybe answer the questions in a way that allows your profile to not be that good either. And maybe look at like one area, maybe social skills, or another area would be executive functioning, or another area would be cognition. One of the areas and not all three, because you don't want to overwhelm the teen. You do want to give them a visual. What you're trying to do is you're trying to give them a visual of what they have to accomplish, and you definitely don't want to overwhelm them. So it would be good if you did it for yourself and you kind of did a competition of some type. Like, often my girls and I have 2 daughters, and like if we overeat for the holidays, then all 3 of us will be like, let's lose weight, who's going to lose 5 pounds faster, that kind of stuff. So it's sort of a manageable goal, and it's also a friendly goal, and everybody wins and that kind of thing. So if you do that, that might not be a bad idea. I recommend you look in the section that lists all the lessons. So like you will look at curriculum area, let's say cognition, and then look at the detail under that curriculum, because then it'll show all the different lessons within that area. And I think that's helpful for the teen to see.
Okay. And for anybody just tuning in, what we're talking about skills, you can check it out for yourself, skillsforautism.com, FOR autism.com, or you can call 877-975-4559. There are so many things about skills that are wonderful, but one of the first things that you get to do is take an assessment, and then it shows you, as we were talking last week about when you go to the mall, and you want to look to see how to get to Macy's, you go to look at the map and it says you are here, and then you can chart how to get to Macy's.
Right.
Well, this assessment gives you a picture and says you are here, and if you want to achieve what the norm is for that age, it shows
Right.
you where the bar graph is. But as you said, no one's going to be 100% in the norm
on everything.
ever.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But so useful for those of you who
Yeah.
are like, well, now they give you a number for autism, but I was always saying, but where are we? Like, how far
Yes.
behind are we?
Yes.
And this not only shows you where you are, it shows you what you've been working on and how much you've gained for that, and how far you would have to go in separate areas.
That's right.
One of the things that was awesome for me is that, when you go to an IEP and they talk to you about, well, we're working on, the expressive and we're working on the receptive language and da-da-da-da-da. I'm a former teacher. When I was able to look and go, oh my goodness, his receptive skills are so much higher than I thought they were.
Right.
And his expressive is not as good as, but that means that tells you how to teach somebody.
Absolutely. And I think it has a lot of different value, and we should talk about it a little bit, because I think it's helpful for people to grasp the enormity of what has to happen. So when you first look at a child, you're looking at these 8 areas of functioning, and I think that's really important. Because you want to figure out what areas they're strong in and weak in, right? And so you're looking at, let's say, all these 8 areas are social, cognition, executive functions, play, motor, academic, adaptive, and language, right? And those are all the areas. But let's say we're just now talking about social. Now, in social, there's, I don't know, hundreds of lessons, right? There's so many different areas that define what social behavior is. Let's just look at one. One area would be social conversation. Now, social conversation or social communication, I can't really focus on the social aspects of communication unless the conversation in language is up to par. So there's a prerequisite that connects right there. So if my child does poorly on the assessment questions that pertain to that, like a question could be, does your child know how to interact with a group of children, right? Verbally interact with a group of children. The answer is going to be no. But how you teach that is not by putting the child in a group of children and then modeling for them exactly what they're supposed to do. How you teach that is you go back and you divide that and say, what are the prerequisite skills for this? And there's some of them are going to be in other domains. For example, the child has to be fluent in just basic conversation, being able to, which means they have to be able to take turns. They have to be able to listen to other people and understand the meaning of what other people are saying, concrete and abstract. They have to be able to make sentences that are on point to the conversation, not irrelevant. And they have to keep the length of their utterance pretty equal to other people's. Like, we're always constantly paying attention to that. If all those things happen, then fine, they can join a group. But now there's also lots and lots of things that go into social communication just in the social domain. For example, the person has to learn how to pay attention to other people's body language. Yeah. What if people are walking away? What do I do now? How to repair the conversation. What if someone misunderstood and starts getting upset? How do I repair that and correct it and fix it? What if, a bunch of people start talking about another subject, but I haven't finished the thing I want to talk about? What do I do then? Right. How do I end it based on how people are interacting? How do I change my conversation based on the actual audience, the people there? Like, we interact very differently if it's a bunch of peers versus a bunch of teachers, let's say, or a bunch of adults. You know what I mean? Yeah. So all of that are individual lessons that have to be taught. And when they are taught, all of it comes together and forms this bigger thing, which is social communication. Yeah. Now, for a parent, it's incredibly important to be able to know which one of those sub-lessons the child is able to do and is not able to do, so that you can fill in the gaps and then have a specific goal and then work towards that goal. That's what I find is often missing in things like IEPs, because or any kind of goal that we usually get for our kids, because no one really says, oh, okay, here's our bigger goal, here's all the sub objectives that we have to do, and this is where we're at. No one ever does that.
Yeah.
And if you do that, at first it seems like, whoa, we have 100 things to work on. But the truth is, they're smaller things, so you get through them, and it's a check off. It's kind of like, you know, when you want to lose 10 pounds, you don't suddenly say, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. You do, you know, you say, I'm going to lose a pound a week.
Right.
So every week I'm going to check this off. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the same thing.
It actually makes it more rewarding when you break it into the big...
Possible.
Right, and
And
possible.
without that,
because you
it's
feel like I'm making
impossible.
progress. I'm making progress. I'm
Exactly.
moving in the right direction, which
Exactly.
is what works.
Exactly.
So amazing to see. So we're talking about skills. You can visit and find out more about skills by going to skillsforautism.com. It's also, you can call the number 877-975-4559. And by the way, there are other things in skills too, besides the assessment and the lessons and tips in teaching the lessons. There's a whole side of it that's just dealing with behavior.
Yes.
So like check it out and call them and ask them, say, hey, I want to know more about this. Tell them Shannon and Dr. Doreen sent you. They'll love that. Okay, I want to continue on with another question here, and we're starting to run out of time. And so I want to go to the one that, because we had talked about lying a little bit. They said, good morning. How do I get my 12-year-old son to own up to his mistakes? He will be caught red-handed and still lie and deny and lie again. How can I help him be honest and accountable? And thanks. There is a silver lining in that, right?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
You know, and so I don't know necessarily at this point that he's trying to not be accountable. I think he may, actually I see a lot of things in this. I don't know if he understands that that his lies are obvious. I don't know if that's the case, which basically means I don't know if he has a theory of mind. If he has a deficit in perspective taking, this is just going to be an impossible task for him. So please don't get mad at him, because he might not be lying. He might not be lying maliciously. He might just not understand that you can see through it. And that's most likely the case. So first thing you want to do is you want to actually just go back with and focus on the concept of truth or untruth, not as it pertains to him, but as it pertains to life. Like, for instance, you know, this is a cup, right? And if I say this is a pen, that's a lie. But this is a pen. So if I say this is a pen, that's the truth. So work on those concepts with him first, just so he understands that. And I think if he's not owning up, so then the other aspect of this, it's not just the delivery, but it's the fact of he's not owning up to his mistakes. I think we don't own up to our mistakes when we have a lot of fear associated with it, and so you need to reduce the fear that's associated with this. And you can do that with two ways. One is that you can model for him and prompt for him to actually make a mistake and then tell you about it, and then you laugh about it. That way he will realize that he's not going to get a huge punishment for every mistake, because mistakes are mistakes after all, right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't get punished for mistakes. We mainly receive punishment in the world for things that we should have learned by now, but we're either being lazy about it or not paying attention or whatever. But everybody makes mistakes. The other thing you can do is you can make mistakes and laugh about it and so on, so that you show him that everyone actually does make mistakes, and that it is okay to tell people that you made a mistake. Because accountability has to do with, you know, being accountable for something. You have to have a lowered fear of the consequences of being accountable. And I think that's what you need to do, is you need to lower the fear that he's associating with telling you what just happened.
Yeah, our team, I don't remember whether it was you or the people on the team, but at some point we were told to make sure that there was a reward for telling the truth, and that the telling the truth was always a bigger reward than whatever punishment would come down the pike.
Definitely.
And we try to reiterate that because it is so important in the teen years that we make sure that our kids trust us enough to tell us the truth.
Right.
Because other
And
devastating things can happen.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to the psychology of why they trust you enough. It's funny because my kids tell me everything.
Yeah.
There is absolutely, I would say, probably less than a 1% of lying going on with my kids. And that is because they know no matter what they tell me, I'm not going to be angry. Yeah. I'm just going to put myself in their position and try to figure out why they did what they did and help them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of owning up to our own mistakes has to do with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That trust factor. Okay, I want to move on to another question here. They said a question for the psychologist. I work with two families who adopted a son who have autism. Around this time of year, both of them bring up their real family, and one of them is nonverbal, and he always has behaviors. What do you think they are communicating to us? Hard to guess, right?
Yeah, I would not assume anything at this point because I don't know. A lot of times we think, when things happen together, we tend to put them in a time frame and think, oh, it must have something to do with this time of year. But I wouldn't make that assumption at this point. I would just, first of all, separate the two individuals. Whenever you're trying to figure out what happens with one child, you have to just identify the function. What is it they're telling you? Why are they telling you? What are the motivating factors? It's too hard for us to make any assumptions here.
Okay. And then what do you tell, because we've been talking a lot about the holidays, what do you tell caring relatives who point out deficits of our kid? Not to hurt, but to attempt to bring it to our attention. The elders in the family do this in hopes of helping. Their intention is good, but it drives me nuts. We are aware of those so-called deficits and are either working on them, or it's a low priority, or we're out of gas. Air hugs. Because we all get to that at some point, right? Mentioning those things brings up stress. So what do you recommend?
Honestly, the viewer who wrote this paragraph just wrote it so well.
Yeah.
So you don't need me to tell you because you just wrote what you should tell them. You specifically said, you know what, we're working on those, or it's a low priority, or I'm out of gas. That's what you tell them. And you tell them that you know that they're trying to help, but it causes stress because you already know, and you're tired, and you're doing the best you can. And that's essentially what you need to be telling people. And you know what? There's so many people in the world who just don't understand what it's like to live with a child with autism. I say, I've been working in this field for, as Shannon said, almost 40 years. And I still tell my staff, I cannot presume to know what it's like to be the parent of a child with autism or to live with a child with autism because, I've had my friends who have children on the spectrum come and stay with us or vacation with us, and that's the closest I've ever gotten. I have not gotten up in the morning and gone to bed at night, and I've been working in this field with children and with families for almost 40 years. So it's very hard for people who are not affected by this directly to know exactly what it is that you go through. Don't let them stress you out. Don't let them judge you. Don't feel judged. Just remind yourself that this person doesn't have a clue. They don't know. And what they're doing is they're trying to help the best they can. The fact that it bothers you, you can let it go. You can let it go. Don't let it bother you. This is the same as when we take our kids out. It's funny, yesterday, a couple days ago, Josh, who used to work here, very tall Josh, right? So he and his
beautiful baby and
they're engaged now.
Yes, they are.
And he was just telling me, we were out in the car and he said something. They have a baby, of course, a couple of years old almost, Carson, and he said, it's amazing. I think it was him or someone said to me, it's amazing how you are as a parent once you have kids.
Yes.
How different you are once you have a child. And you used to go out to supermarkets and you'd see these kids freaking out. And you'd be like, why doesn't the parents control their kid? And now you have that freaking out kid. And you're like, well, he's just a kid,
right.
And he wants to
have him feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So for those people who give advice where it's not really needed or necessary or helpful. Just, it's the same thing. They don't have the child. They don't know. And they're just doing the best they can as well.
You know, my favorite phrase, other people's opinions of my parenting is none of my business.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Isn't that great? I'm going to get it crocheted on a pillow. May have to write a book and title it that.
That's
Other
so
people's
good.
opinions of my parenting is none of my business.
Honestly.
Okay, so last week we had somebody write in from India a question about meds.
Yes.
And she did write back and said, thank you, Dr. Doreen, for answering my questions. The supplements that they had suggested, because she was trying to weigh, because they're expensive, she had said, the supplements that were suggested are B1, B2, B6, folinic acid, zinc, magnesium, coenzyme 10, and glycine.
Yeah, and these are good. These are very good supplements, and I don't know why they should be expensive.
That's my question. And so maybe, like, if you would email me, we can find you a cheaper way to get supplements. Maybe it's because you're in India. Maybe I need to send you a care package.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we do, because of course we have on our board Dave Humphrey at the Act
Kirkman
Today
Labs.
board, who owns the Kirkman Labs, and we might be able to get you a nice package and send it to you.
Yes, so write to me, make sure that I have your email address. For those of you who don't have my email, it's S as in Shannon, dot Penrod, PENROD as in dog, at autism, I know they know how to spell that, -live.com. So write to me. Let's see if we can't hook you up. Because that shouldn't be really expensive at all.
Right.
All right, we're out of time.
Sadly.
And this is our last time with you for the year. So again, we thank you for everything
Thank you
that
so
do.
much, and I want to wish everybody season's greetings, happy holidays, and I look forward to being back in January with you.
Yay, we're very excited about that. Thank you so much for being here
Hannah.
today and all year long.